Well, hi again. Welcome to this week's episode of Canadian Profits TV. My name is Dave Dubois, and I'm your host. And again, another big shout out and a thanks to Karen for stepping in for Wagner as our camera person this week. So, what's up with this week's episode? Again, I'm going to continue on with the lessons that I learned from our recent trip down to Scottsdale for our annual diamond getaway. So we've got a real estate tip, red flag number 2 about prospective tenants from our good friend Ross McAllister. And we got a combination of a business breakthrough and a mindset minute from our new friend, Jerry Clark. So stay tuned. All right, so for our real estate tip, again, we're going to talk about what we learned from our friend Ross McAllister from MC Companies. He and his partner Ken McElroy are the principal owners of MC Companies. They're also Rich Dad Advisors. We've got over 6,000 apartment units under their ownership and their management, so they definitely know a thing or two about tenants. So when we asked Ross, what are some of the criteria you're looking for when you're interviewing prospective tenants? Now obviously Ross doesn't do this anymore, but back in the day he did. But he said that there are 2 big red flags that you should always watch out for with prospective tenants. Last week we talked about red flag number 1, which is people who want to do immediate move-ins. Ross says avoid those folks at all costs. It'll just be a headache otherwise. And red flag number 2 is folks who want to pay all cash. Now that one kind of surprised quite a few of us because we thought, what the heck? If people want to pay all cash, why not take it? Well, Ross had a very, very good point about that. And that is nowadays, typically folks that are paying all cash are doing work that is not really legal. So again, we could be talking about drug dealers, drug manufacturers, prostitution rings, gambling, you name it, what have you, those kind of all cash businesses. He says you have to be very, very wary of them. So Ross and his companies, they will only do rental payments, post-dated checks, automatic withdrawals from bank accounts, or automatic payments through credit cards. That's the only way they will accept payment. It's almost like the airlines nowadays. They won't accept cash. So again, this took some of us aback. We weren't all that used to it. Myself and my rent-owned business, we do the same thing. It's all automated payments, post-dated checks, what have you. We don't want to fool around with that. However, not that long ago, my grandfather and my father with our apartment building way up north around Fort St. John, they were all cash kind of guys. That's how they preferred to get paid. And I know that there's a lot of old school real landlords who feel the same way to this date. But again, let's learn from the best. Ross and Ken say no all cash tenants, because they tend to be problematic. So if they say it, I listen to them. That's your real estate tip for this week. All right, so let's move on to our combination this week of a business breakthrough and a mindset minute, again from our new friend Jerry Clark from down in Scottsdale, Arizona. Just a reminder, Jerry is a new partner with Ross McAllister and Ken McElroy and MC Companies. Their company, Jerry's company, and their companies have kind of joined forces to work on some specific projects. And Jerry definitely has a lot of experience in business and in real estate. He and his company since 1973 have built over 20,000 apartment units in and around Phoenix, Arizona. So very, very sharp businessman, very, very successful businessman as well. And last week we talked about his first success tip, which was showing up, just showing up. And this week, his second tip is always listen more than you talk. That's right, always listen more than you talk. Now these aren't really, when I heard these tips from Jerry, I was kind of surprised that they were so simple. However, these are things that most of us have a hard time doing. So again, listening more than we talk. I know I've had a challenge with that myself more than once, but that's why the good Lord gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth to use them hopefully in that proportion. So especially when you're meeting with prospective clients, you're meeting with prospective investors, you're meeting with prospective tenants, what have you, you should always focus on listening a lot more than you speak. You're going to pick up a lot more, you're going to get a lot more of not only the verbal communication, but the non-verbal communication, and the cues, the clues, the tips that you need to make a good decision. So take Jerry's advice and always listen more than you talk. That is your combo business breakthrough and mindset minute for this week. All right, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Canadian Profits TV. What's going on? Well, in July, my wife Susie, my son Andy, my daughter Amy, and our dog Rocky and myself are all heading to beautiful Ontario and Quebec for a combination, a little bit of work and play. We're going to be putting on a series of my R2O three-way payday live rent-to-own training events. These are free events that we'll be holding in London, Ontario, Toronto, Ontario, Ottawa, and Montreal as well. So if you'd like to check that out, if you're in those areas, love to meet you, love to have you come out and learn a little bit about rent-to-own real estate investing. You can check that out at r2o3waypayday.com. Actually, it's just threewaypayday.com. Speaking of rent-to-own, if you're a current rent-to-own cash-on-demand student, mark your calendars for August 18th and 19th here in beautiful Kamloops, BC, where we're holding our second R2O Profits Summit. That's free for you as a current student of ours with the cash-on-demand system. If you're not a current student, you should be. You can check it all out and find out all about this event at r2oprofitssummit.com. Have a good week, and we'll talk to you next Monday. Bye-bye.